Hey everyone, thank you so much for stopping by my channel once again. If you're returning, I appreciate your support. If you're new, please go ahead and subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm discussing. And also please engage in the comments if you will, because I really want to know what you guys think about this topic. But make sure you keep it positive though. I really appreciate that. Okay, so if you haven't seen my first videos, I'm gonna go ahead and post or put a link to my very first video right here, so that way you can go back and see introduction, etc. So you know what's what, so you can stay up with the conversation. And this is definitely not a still shot, as you see. This is my backyard. I'm not on camera for a particular reason that I mentioned in my first video. But soon I hopefully will be on camera. But anyway, so I wanted to go back to the end of what I asked you on the second part of what's up with the Old Testament. And the two questions that I left you with is, why are your morals higher than Jehovah's? And why does it seem like Jehovah changed from the Old Testament to the New Testament? I want to go ahead and rephrase the first question when I said, why are your morals higher than Jehovah's? The question I really want you to think about is this, you guys. Why do you believe that Jehovah's morals are less than yours or lower than yours? And I'm asking it that way for a particular reason. The reason is because this is supposed to be God's own inspired word, right? That's what you have been taught. That's what you have been led to believe. That is what you have accepted 100% wholeheartedly. Yet this book is trying to have you believe that Jehovah has less morals than you. Now, even if you don't understand Jehovah's ways, you still can understand what is wrong and right because it is written in you. You don't need anybody to tell you what's wrong and right. If you didn't have the Bible, let's just say not the Bible, let's just say you didn't have the Old Testament, all you had was the New Testament, and somebody was to say, well, Jehovah did XYZ before. If you were only working with the New Testament, you would completely reject that. You would say, no, there is no way that my God did anything like that, because my God is loving. My God, it says that God is love, right? So he doesn't just show love, he is love. And this is love that's agape love, right? Unconditional love, right? Which we all have heard. Jehovah is patient. Jehovah is, long suffering. He doesn't want anybody to die. What else? That's why he has have you guys preaching, right? Because he wants to make sure everybody, every single person on the face of this earth gets an opportunity to learn about him so that they will not die. And he loved people so much that he gave his only begotten son. This is what the New Testament says, right? So how does that coincide with the Old Testament? How can you simultaneously believe that Jehovah is, not was? Because if he does not change, then that means he is a certain way. He is simultaneously genocidal, okay with slavery, okay with having his people lie in order to take somebody's land without, knowing that they don't have any intention for peace, like lying to the people and killing all the men and taking, the women and children as their property or their possession, whatever you want to call it, their prize, right? How can he be simultaneously that way and simultaneously telling you to turn the other cheek and love your enemies and, go out and preach, and do all of this, because if you don't do it, blood is on your hands? Does that make sense, you guys? Does it really make sense that God is simultaneously both ways? No, it doesn't. And I think that's why a lot of people will have a problem with defending the Old Testament because it is something that causes you to have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, holding on to two different opposing ideas at the same time. And you really don't know how to make sense of that. So in order to do that, you just, because you believe it and you're required to believe that the Bible is 100% God's word, what you do is you make excuses. You make excuses, and you just don't know how to, a lot of us don't know how to admit that something is off here. It's almost like a person would say the police or FBI or whatever comes to their home and tells them that their child committed all these atrocious acts. And they say, like a lot of parents would say, my son or my daughter could never and would never do that because I know them. You know, they wouldn't hurt a fly or whatever. You know, sometimes we know that these parents obviously don't know their children, you know, because they actually are responsible for some atrocious acts. And then they find out later that the child was in the room, you know, making bombs and stuff, and the parent had no clue. But I'm talking about just like a hypothetical situation. If you were told, and you know your child, and you know how loving they are and how gentle and how, you know, fair and compassionate or whatever, if you were told that your child committed some acts and just brutally murdered people or, you know, raped women or whatever the case, you would just reject that just, you know, without thought, right? Because you know your child. So how is it that we feel we know Jehovah so well? We know him, yet we still believe that he did the things that's mentioned in the Old Testament, because they really don't go with the personality of the God that you say you worship right now. Christianity is built upon the New Testament. It's not built upon the Old Testament. But yet you feel it's the same God doing all of these things, the same God that actually doesn't change. That doesn't make any sense, you guys. You have to really start to think about that and question that. And so when you start to ask the question, you start coming to some conclusions that maybe are a little uncomfortable. You start coming to the conclusion that, well, is the Bible really God's word? Or is the whole Bible really God's word? Or maybe something was tampered with, or, maybe there's a different God in the Old Testament. Like, it's all of these different things that you start kind of toying around with in your mind when you start questioning this stuff. But let me tell you, when you start really looking at it and breaking down these barriers, you will be happy that you did, because then you will see that it's really nothing to be afraid of. The reason why we're so afraid of God is because of the Old Testament. If you really think about it, yes, you have certain images and certain others, like revelations or something about, you know, the end, which is all, a lot of it is all, you know, metaphorical anyway. But for the most part, the reason why we are so terrified is because of the Old Testament, because it describes so many things about how people will be killed, or people was killed back in the day. So it's just very interesting. And it's time that you start really pulling back the veil on these things and really start questioning yourself. Does it make sense? How can Jehovah's morals be less than yours? Because even if you don't want to just say that in your mind, that Jehovah's morals are less than yours, just think about it. If you were talking to a person and they said to you, I believe in slavery, I believe that it is okay to enslave somebody as long as they are not a follower of, you know, of my God. Or I believe that it is okay to kill people who do not worship God, right? If a person says that, and you know, well, no, Jehovah is the judge. Jehovah is the one who's gonna, you know, judge the heart and gonna, say whether someone deserves to live or die, because he's the creator. So that person who feels that way, that it's okay to take a life or enslave a person or whatever, you'll really think that you have higher morals than them, wouldn't you? There is no way around that. So the only thing that most people hold on to when it comes to trying to defend God in this situation is that they say, well, we don't understand God's ways. But that really does not hold water, you guys. If you really think about it, it's not about understanding God's ways in this situation. You don't have to understand his ways. All you have to be able to do is clearly use your logic and say, is this something that is humane or not? Because again, he obviously doesn't think it's humane, or else he would be having that done today. And he know if he's so good at protecting his people like he was with the Israelites, it doesn't matter if the laws of the land and the government is in place to try to stop Jehovah's Witnesses from going off and, committing murder to the people that are not Jehovah's servants. It wouldn't matter what the laws that are going on in this day. He would be able to orchestrate it and send his angels to help you guys fight these people, right? And protect you simultaneously. But no, he's not doing that. He is having you witness to them to give them an opportunity. This clearly shows that he doesn't have that type of genocidal personality. So you have to stop making excuses for this Old Testament and start really looking at it. What is it? Where did it come from? What is the Bible in general? Where did it come from? We have to start looking at this stuff. And so I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. Again, I could talk about these things for much longer, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short, and I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks for watching.